Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Ayla Donlin, and this is a brief presentation about mindfulness. I've been studying well-being for over 15 years now, and in every aspect of my studies about well-being, I have come across the many and wonderful benefits of mindfulness and meditation. I think so many of us struggle to begin a mindfulness practice and or a meditation practice because we're not quite sure where to start. We're not sure if we're doing it right. We're not quite sure what it should feel like or look like. And so I wanted to provide this workshop or this informational session as a starting point for you, whether you've started a meditation or mindfulness practice before or not, or even if you currently have one, you may find some of this information beneficial in terms of building on your existing practice. My hope is that this information is information that you can take action on immediately and put into practice, and that it will give you some very practical and tangible strategies for starting or continuing your mindfulness and meditation practice. I've had my own mindfulness and meditation practice for well over 15 years now, and I'd love to share with you that it is exactly that, a practice where every day we show up and we do the best that we can in practicing mindfulness or the very specific practice of meditation and being present in the moment with what is. So I want to encourage you to approach this mindfulness and meditation practice with openness, with curiosity, with beginner's mind, as we're going to talk about through this presentation, and to give yourself patience and grace as you participate in this very rewarding practice. Okay, let's move into the content. So first, let me get out of the way of the content there. How cool is this that we can embed me in the slides? Okay, in terms of what is mindfulness, the definition of mindfulness will vary depending on where you are viewing the content or the definition. But essentially, the essence of mindfulness is the ability to be present in the moment. And it's a way of living, it's a lifestyle. It's not just an isolated incident or practice. Meditation is a practice of mindfulness where we're very intentional in a dedicated amount of time to practice mindfulness. But mindfulness, in and of itself, is a way of living, approaching our life by committing to being present in the moment with what is, open to and accepting of what is present at the moment, whether that's pleasant, unpleasant, or anywhere in between. Much easier said than done. And as John Kabat-Zinn says, if as human beings we can string together 2 moments of mindfulness where we are completely present in the moment, we should feel victorious. It's that hard to do, to be in the present moment. Another way that you can think about mindfulness is that we're free from distraction or judgment. So we have this awareness of our thoughts and our feelings, but we're not getting caught up in them or immersed in them or carried away by them. We're able to almost observe them from a distance and not attach to them. Again, easier said than done because we have to create that awareness of keeping distance from our thoughts rather than getting caught up in them, which is very easy to do. So it's this moment to moment awareness. And it really is a practice because we have to train that muscle of attentional awareness to be able to notice, be aware of when our mind has wandered, and then be able to gently bring it back to whatever it is we want to focus on in that moment. There's an interesting assessment tool that you can use called the Mindful Attention Awareness Score. And this will tell you your dispositional mindfulness. So naturally, How much do you drift toward mindfulness, or how naturally inclined are you to be mindful? So you could take this assessment and get an idea of where you're at now, and then you could set some goals for where you might like to be in terms of your ideal level of mindfulness. And then you can put into practice some of these strategies that I'm going to share, and then take this mindful attention awareness score 6 or 12 months from now and see how you do. In terms of best practices for mindfulness or meditation, there are some qualities or attitudes that we can think about in terms of cultivating these qualities or attitudes within ourself in order to bring into our practice our most ideal self, and to bring these qualities or attitudes into our practice will help us as we are trying to be mindful and as we're practicing meditation as a way of building that muscle of mindfulness. So I'll briefly define these 9 qualities or attitudes. Non-judging is one, where we don't judge ourselves or others. We take this attitude of non-judgment into our meditation or mindfulness practice. So if thoughts come up that we don't necessarily want to come up, or we want to be focusing on something else, we don't judge ourselves for having those thoughts, and we don't even judge the thoughts themselves. We just say, okay, that's happening. That thought is there. I see you. I'm aware of you, and then move on to the next. Part of that is acceptance, accepting the present moment for as it is. This is not complacence. It's once we can accept the present moment for what it is and accept what is happening in the present moment. In doing that, in accepting what is, we then create an awareness and a power to take action. So if we want to make change, by being aware of and accepting what is happening right now, we can then proactively decide what we want to do and make a plan for change. But it has to start with acceptance rather than resistance. And that takes a lot of patience, which is another quality or attitude. And I think this is so important always, but especially at the beginning of our practice, because it can be so frustrating that we have all of these recurring thoughts and feelings moving through our mind all of the time. That is human nature. And so it's easy to get frustrated with those interruptions as we might view them initially. So being patient with the process, being patient with our busy minds, being patient with getting frustrated or irritated by the process, and just offering ourselves some patience as we continue our practice. Another really important one is beginner's mind. So each time we come to our practice of meditation specifically, trying to approach it and participate in it as though it's the first time we've ever done it. And that's really challenging to do once we have done that, to then cultivate beginner's mind going in again, kind of creating that blank slate where we don't have any preconceived expectations or judgments. We're not anticipating anything. We're just showing up with this beginner's mind, openness and curiosity to participate in the process. And beginner's mind serves us, outside of the context of meditation as well. That's something we can practice in our relationships as we take an opportunity to next listen to our partner or our children, to approach the conversation with beginner's mind, letting go of any of the past that we're hanging on to that's influencing our perceptions or thoughts as we move into the conversation. Maybe we're anticipating what the person is going to say based on what has happened in the past. But if we offer ourselves and them beginner's mind, there might be some more openness and maybe more understanding and or empathy that we can bring into the conversation. Another quality or attitude is trust. And this is about trusting ourselves and our intuitions, being able to tap into and tune into that inner voice that offers clarity in many of our decisions or offers us insight into our own thoughts, our own speech, our own behaviors. Trusting our intuition to enlighten us and to guide us as we're participating in meditation and mindfulness. Non-striving has a quality or attitude, and this can be really challenging for those of us who are achievement oriented and who are to-do list oriented, because we like to achieve, to do, to strive toward goals. And in the practice of mindfulness and meditation, our goal is to be rather than do. So there's no striving that's necessary. What's necessary is to not move toward a specific goal or objective or try to do anything. It's simply to be in the present moment. Letting go, so that might be related to non-striving, right? Letting go of expectations, letting go of preconceived notions, letting go and allowing ourselves to be fully present in the moment with beginner's mind, patience, and acceptance, non-judgment. And oftentimes that takes letting go of maybe some thoughts, maybe behaviors, maybe relationships that we know are no longer serving us well. And that trust of trusting our intuition, of knowing what and when we need to let go of, is such a powerful thing. So that might be a question to ask yourself today. Are there any thoughts? Are there any behaviors? Are there any relationships that I need to let go of so that I can move forward and be my most well self? And that would enable me then to be more present in each moment. Gratitude is another quality or attitude. And gratitude is not ignoring the unpleasant or the negative aspects or things that happen in our lives or in the world around us, but rather it's acknowledging and accepting those things and choosing to look for the good, to look for the things that we can be grateful for, recognizing and acknowledging what we have. Yes, we recognize and acknowledge what we don't have, but then offering some gratitude for what we do have. And generosity ties into that as well. Being generous with ourselves, with our time and our energy, so that we can best take care of ourselves, so that we can be generous with our time and energy for others. So it's approaching this practice again with this sense of openness and spaciousness and abundance, a growth mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset, or an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. So approaching things with a generosity of our time and our energy and effort, as though we have a lot to give. And again, that's where we can trust our intuition to know when we're at the end of our bucket and it needs refilling. We can acknowledge that and say, okay, I may not be able to be as generous with my time, energy, and attention today because I need to refill my bucket. And then it's trusting our intuition to know what we need to do to refill our bucket so that we can once again be generous with our time, energy, and attention. So these are 9 qualities and attitudes that we can work on cultivating and developing within ourselves that will help us in our meditation and mindfulness practice. And in turn, our meditation and mindfulness practice will boost or bolster these qualities and attitudes as well. So let's move into some meditation techniques in terms of best practices. I think, as I was mentioning earlier, we can be easily frustrated as we're beginning a meditation practice or a mindful way of living, because we can try a technique and it may not work very well, and that can be frustrating or defeating. So the good news is there's so many different ways that we can practice meditation. And as I said before, meditation is a great way that we can train our muscles of mindfulness, because what meditation does is it strengthens our attentional awareness, our ability to focus on what we want to, when we want to, and to notice when our attention has been distracted or taken away from where we want to focus. And often that is on the present moment, right? So as we meditate and build our attentional awareness, that then carries over into our daily life, and we're able to be more mindful moment to moment. So let's quickly go through these different types of meditation techniques, and then I'll offer some suggestions in terms of how to use them. The first technique is called focused attention, and this is probably the most commonly used meditation technique. That's where we focus our attention specifically on an object, such as our breath, on an object or a sensation. So our breath is a very common anchor point for our attention in meditation. Another type of focused attention meditation is focusing on fingertips in contact with one another, or maybe focusing on the sensation of your body in contact with your chair or the floor. Those are all examples of focused attention techniques. Another technique is the body scan meditation, and that's where we hold our attention or our awareness on one segment of our body at a time as we scan from the top of our head to the tips of our toes, or opposite, tips of our toes to the top of our head. And we're just noticing, we're holding in awareness and noticing what sensations we're feeling or experiencing in our body at that time as we scan through. The technique of noting is taking note of or noticing when thoughts come into our mind during our meditation, which is inevitable. Like there's no such thing as like a completely blank mind meditation. Maybe for very, very advanced, like transcendental meditation practitioners, but very rarely would we experience the sensation of a blank mind. It's so natural for different thoughts, different feelings, different emotions to move through. And that's okay. In fact, the purpose or the point of a mindful meditation is simply to then be aware of when those things are moving through, so that we have that awareness and we're not attaching to those things. We're seeing them without being attached to them or getting caught up in them or judging them, right? So noting would be to simply notice, oh, okay, that's thinking. Oh, okay, that's feeling. Oh, that's an emotion floating through. So we're just taking note of what's moving through our mind at any given moment. The loving kindness meditation, sometimes called metta, M-E-T-T-A meditation, is one of my favorite techniques. And that is where we focus on cultivating warmth, compassion, love, and kindness to a series of individuals. Sometimes we would start with ourselves and then move to a loved one, then moved to an acquaintance, someone we don't know very well, and then move to someone who we actually don't see eye to eye with, or maybe currently we are having a disagreement with that individual. And then we move into the larger context of maybe our neighborhood, our community, our city, our state, our nation. and beyond. And oftentimes in a loving kindness or a metta meditation, we're going through a specific mantra and sending that energy of warmth, of kindness, compassion to each individual or group of individuals as we're meditating. One of my favorite mantras is, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be peaceful and at ease. And you say that mantra and send that energy to each of those individuals and groups that I mentioned. Another technique is skillful compassion, similar to loving kindness, but instead we're really focusing in on cultivating compassion within ourselves, either for ourselves or more often for someone else. So, really understanding within ourselves and feeling and experiencing compassion for someone, which really takes a lot of empathy, and practicing that skill of empathy in order to offer compassion. So, it would be meditating on cultivating compassion for an individual. The technique of visualization is visualizing something specific during the meditation. A common one is a pinpoint of light that would start in the center of your body, and you visualize that pinpoint of light gradually getting bigger and spreading through your entire body, then all the way radiating out of your body. Another common visualization is envisioning sunlight pouring into your body, starting at your toes and filling up your body. And then there are many other visualization techniques that you can use. One of my favorites is what I call the ideal self visualization, or the most well self visualization, where you hold an image in your mind's eye of your most well self and what you look like, how you think, how you speak, how you behave as your most well self. And you visualize that energy that you are carrying with you as you are your most well self. Another meditation technique is resting awareness. And I find this to be one of the more challenging techniques, because what we're doing with resting awareness is just that. So instead of focusing our mind on our breath or on scanning through our body or noting or visualizing, we're simply letting our mind be. We're resting our attention and our awareness and letting our mind do whatever it wants to do. And that can be challenging in terms of creating and cultivating an acceptance for whatever comes up, and being patient with that as we rest our awareness. I find that to be a very powerful technique as well, in terms of what it's done for me. Is it's made my mind a more friendly place to be, because sometimes initially what would have come up in my mind might have been some thoughts that weren't so kind or friendly toward myself, or like some self-critical thoughts, or playing back past mistakes, which then could lead down a rabbit hole of rumination, right? But over time, in creating that awareness and knowing that I didn't need to get caught up in those thoughts, whether self-critical or replaying mistakes, and that instead I could just change the channel and wait for the next thought to come through, then eventually my mind became a much more friendly place to be, and the thoughts and feelings and emotions that started to come in overall tended to be more pleasant than unpleasant. That's my personal experience, just sharing that. And then one of the last types of meditation techniques is reflection, where we're reflecting on maybe a particular question or a particular series of questions as we meditate, as a way of bringing up in ourselves some answers, but without feeling pressured to come up with a specific answer. More so asking the question with the purpose and intent of asking the question and allowing whatever comes up to come up, and just letting that be with non-judgment, openness, and curiosity. So those are a lot of different types of meditation techniques that you can put into practice, and you can start to discern which types of techniques really resonate with you right now and which ones you may want to try later on. And you can incorporate these into your meditation practice in a way that best serves you. I find that I more often use focused attention, visualization, and loving kindness tend to be my three go-tos. So you could play around and see what best serves you. Here are just a few short pieces or suggestions. I was going to say pieces of advice, but more so suggestions for you. It can be overwhelming to think about all 9 of the attitudes at once. And it can be overwhelming to think about all of the different meditation techniques and putting them into practice. So my recommendation, my suggestion is to pick one. Pick one attitude to focus on at a time. Maybe that's daily, maybe that's weekly, where you're focusing on that attitude and developing that attitude or bringing that attitude to your meditation practice or your mindfulness practice that day or that week. And then pick one meditation technique to try at a time. And maybe you're going to try it for the whole week. Maybe you're going to try it for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days at a time. Or maybe you're going to try a new meditation technique each day. And that's entirely up to you in terms of the rhythm that you think might serve you best. But in order to not be overwhelmed, pick one at a time. That seems to be what serves us well in so many different contexts, to simplify and focus on one thing at a time. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can follow me on social media. Instagram, my handle is @Ayla Donlin Wellness. And on Facebook, I'm Ayla Donlin Wellness. You can like and follow my Ayla Donlin Wellness page on Facebook. And then you can feel free to email me as well. My email address is Ayla, AYLA, @ayladonlinwellness.com. And that's my website as well, if you'd like to check that out, ayladonlinwellness.com. Thanks so much, and may you be well.